Fox News is now streaming live on Fox One. When news breaks, we don't just report it. We go beyond the headlines to get the full story. Get live coverage, in-depth analysis, and perspectives from the voices you trust, all in one place. Whether you're at home or on the go, stay connected to the stories shaping our world. Stream Fox News on Fox One. Download today.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Breaking news.
And tonight on the Rita Cosby Show, Saudi Arabia. The Saudis saying they may join the fight if necessary. This would be an enormous development if the Saudis took part. They are coming out in the last few hours and saying that trust with Iran, quote, has collapsed. So they may somehow get involved militarily against Iran because, of course, Iran in the last 24 hours has hit some Saudi oil and gas facilities and really hit them pretty hard. And the Saudis are saying enough is enough. Also, a number of Arab countries are, as a coalition, putting out a statement condemning these attacks on them and condemning Iran. So could we see even a new coalition forming with the Israelis, the U.S., and maybe Saudi Arabia and some others in the Arab world? Boy, that would be an incredible moment. But Iran is continuing to remain defiant. And of course, all of this started after, first of all, Iran, obviously, with their nuclear development and everything else. But in this recent salvo, it was the Israelis who did the strike on the big gas field that is there in Iran. And Iran then fired back at the Qataris on their gas field, which was part of the big one that they share with Iran. But on the Qatari side, the South Pars field was then hit significantly in a big, big way. And then they also struck at Saudi. Then they struck at Kuwait. They struck at some other locations. And so a lot of people were saying, well, did you know that Israel was going to take this strike on the big gas field, the biggest in the world, there that Iran has a huge portion of? And President Trump today said, no, we didn't. This is how President Trump responded. Take a listen in the White House.
You talked to Prime Minister Netanyahu about attacking the oil and gas fields.
Yeah, I did. I told him don't do that, and he won't do that. We didn't discuss. We do. We're independent. We get along great. It's coordinated, but on occasion he'll do something, and if I don't like it, and so we're not doing that anymore.
So you heard President Trump said, I didn't know he was going to do that. I told him not to do that anymore because that could be even more enormously disruptive, obviously, to the oil markets, to everything else. But clearly, Saudi Arabia with this new development is furious. By the way, Iran also continuing their executions. And they had 3 public hangings today. This is shocking. One of them of a champion wrestler who apparently was tortured to say they had killed a police officer. 3 of them, 3 young men who were anti-regime protesters and were brutally, horrifically tortured. And then they were executed today. Clearly a message that Iran is trying to remain defiant to the world. So many people knowing about this really brave wrestler who was an Olympian. I mean, this guy was a great, great wrestler and was out there with his fellow students peacefully protesting against the regime. These people are monsters. Well, also today, the other big story is New York City's First Lady, Rama Dawaji, celebrating Palestinian terrorists in these resurfaced social media posts. And some of them are just so downright vile and disgusting, celebrating terrorists. And there are many of these that she posted on her personal social media, more than 70 of them. Some of them bashing Israelis, some of them celebrating terrorists, some of them also bashing U.S. service members. And earlier today on Katz and Cosby, we talked with John Levine. He is the journalist. He used to be with the New York Post. Now he is with the Washington Free Beacon, and he's the one who broke this big scoop. Listen to what he says. The First Lady said in her post, "This is disgusting. She is the wife of the mayor of the biggest city in this country. We need answers." And so far, we haven't heard anything from the mayor about this new round, nothing from the wife. Shame on them.
And we have had so many examples of, okay, she just liked a few social media posts praising October 7th massacre. Okay, she worked with a woman who called Jews vampires and cockroaches. Okay, well, but she didn't, she didn't know who she was. And now we have her posting on her own social media account, Tumblr and X, the most vile and hateful things. She posted the N-word. She posted slurs about gay people. She posted a photograph of a famous terrorist named Layla Khalid, who broke the glass ceiling she was the first woman to ever hijack a plane. That was a very important Palestinian glass ceiling. And she stormed a cockpit. El Al plane, 1970, stormed the cockpit with a grenade and tried to take the plane down. So that's the kind of person. And she posts a photo of this woman on her social media account. And in the caption in the photo, it says, "If it does good for my cause, I'll be happy to accept death." And she posted this when she was about 20 years old. So this is not like, she was just a teenager. And there's many similar posts. There was another terrorist who built a lot of bombs for the Palestinians, and she was killed when one of her bombs exploded in her own house. Like she reposted a tweet sharing something laudatory about that woman. So enough is enough. She clearly supports Palestinian extremism, radical Islamic terrorism. New York City almost had an ISIS radical Islamic terrorist attack like a week ago on the Upper East Side. There was some liberal screaming, "Everyone, no person is illegal," and then a radical Islamic terrorist just threw a bomb over his head. Thank God it didn't go off. But, what are we doing here? And it's being egged on by Zohar Mamdani and his wife.
Yeah, and so far, crickets. No answer from either of them. And at this time, where the threats against America are at an all-time high, and she's out there not that long ago praising Palestinian terrorists, praising them, and also bashing the United States. This gets pretty disgusting, too. Here she is. Here's John Levine describing what she said about American troops overseas. Listen to this one.
Absolutely. She on her Tumblr account, I don't know if anyone remembers Tumblr, she said that American troops overseas fighting are not brave, and they're coward, and they're fighting in American imperialist wars. And she blamed white people for creating Al-Qaeda. That was and that's the least offensive stuff that I found, which you can see in the report that we did. So it's such a dumpster fire. And the fact of the matter is, I sent a request for comment to the mayor's people. I gave them about 3.5 hours to respond. They ignored me. It's been percolating online now for 24 hours. They have not responded. The mayor had a press conference today. Any questions from reporters, and not a single reporter asked about this, it was the most disgraceful thing I have ever seen in my life. Everyone is just competing to roll over for asking about some this or that specific of the Department of Social Workers he's going to create that's going to make New York much less safe. And you've got this major news item swirling around, and not one, 7 or 8 questions, not one person asked him. Disgraceful. And it's New York City is regime media. It's controlled media. He's making the press RSVP to his events. Mayor Adams never did that. He'd never get away with that. So, they were like, "John, you should have gone to New York." I'm not going to go up to New York and then and be told I can't get in. I can't be RSVP only, or stand there and not get called on. So it's just terrible. It's regime media.
That's really frightening, what Jonathan Levine said. First off, disgusting, obviously, what the First Lady of New York was saying about American troops. Then also saying that white people are to blame for Al-Qaeda. That's lovely, too. And then what he just said, that the media, there wasn't availability with Mayor Mamdani today where they said, we're going to take some questions. And the media, I guess the ones that got approved to go inside, none of them asked him a question about this. Are you kidding me? What is wrong with the New York media? Have they lost their spine? The local New York media that covers this mayor every single day should be up there saying, Mr. Mayor, let's talk about your wife. Mr. Mayor, do you condemn these statements? Mr. Mayor, will she apologize? There should be about 20 or 30 questions shouted out about it. But none of them even asked? Or did they only pick people that they thought would just be apologetic media? And boy, has it gone rock bottom in local media if that's the standard that's out there. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Also, earlier today, we spoke with Ari Fleischer, former White House press secretary, and we asked him about his reaction to the mayor and the mayor's wife and these vile remarks and vile actions that we've seen of late.
Yeah, remember when it was just last week and there was a IED thrown right outside of conservative protesters outside Gracie Mansion? I don't think it was a social worker who tackled the guy who threw the IED. It was a cop. I mean, where are we going in New York City? This is the pie in the sky nonsense of socialism that's going to just harm everyday average New Yorkers. But that's Mondani. This is what New York signed up for when he won, but I think New York is on its way to a terrible case of buyer's remorse.
Buyer's remorse. And Ari's talking about, obviously, the vile comments from the wife, vile past comments also from the mayor, and also this new announcement of the sending a social worker versus cops to domestic violence calls. That was the other thing today, which is certainly going to put social workers in danger. You don't want to send a cop to one of the most volatile situations. Oh, let's send some. Sir, could I talk to you while they're having a LSD episode? I don't think that's going to work. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Norm in Brooklyn on line 3. Go ahead, Norm. Your thoughts tonight.
Yeah, hi, Rita. Okay, yes, it is clear that Mayor Mamdani and Rama Duwaji, his wife, are evil. I mean, that's pretty damn clear. Anyway, but how do we get rid of them? Tonight I had an answer. The answer is we have to support Bruce Blakeman. I had the pleasure tonight of seeing my friend Sandra, and the Women's Republican Club.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, and Bruce Blakeman, I am a believer. I am a believer so much, Rita. The room was electric. That's all I can say, and no BS, okay? Because I don't BS. It was great. It was like a switch got flicked in my brain, and I am all in. Now I got to figure out how I'm going to volunteer, but I am definitely. We have to get this man elected. There was just such goodness coming out of him, and he answered my question. I asked the question, what would he do different than? Because I volunteered for Lee Zeldin, and what would he do different than Lee Zeldin did to beat Hochul? And he gave us a very good answer.
What did he say, by the way, Norm? Before you go forward, what did he say that he would do different? Because I would be curious on that. First of all, I've met Bruce many times. I really like Bruce. I agree with you. He's a very smart, poised man. Also, in addition to all of that, Zeldin came very close. I mean, Lee did incredible, and his debate performance, I contend, was fantastic when he kept saying to Kathy Hochul, this crime, and then finally she looked at him and said, who cares about crime? It was something to that effect, and that moment was like, what? It was like everybody cares about crime, and there was a lot of crime in New York at that moment, and the fact that she seemed, I think many people felt out of touch, really, I think, hurt her and helped Lee, I thought, tremendously. So, Norm, real quick, what did Bruce say?
Okay, he said the fact that he is pro-choice, so they can't use that against him. Hochul cannot use that. the fact that he is a councilman and not a congressman. He has a bigger district, more people. Now, what was that was
he's
major.
A lot taller. He's a lot taller than Lee is. Not that Lee's a short guy. He isn't, but Bruce is a tall guy. He's a very personable guy, don't you think?
Oh, very much so. I volunteered with his son, Arlen. So I kind of was familiar with him because Arlen was the kind of like office manager at his election headquarters down there in Chelsea.
Oh, wow. So that's great. Well, Norm, you have a solution because certainly if Bruce Blakeman were to win the governorship, then he can remove Zohran Mamdani. Only the governor can do that. You just kind of have to find cause, and you can find cause pretty easily. I think you could find a lot of cause, especially when you're looking at Zohran Mamdani. So let's see where it goes. I hope Bruce also gets out there even more visible. I think he's a great guy. He's a commanding presence. He's a great human being. And I agree with you. He's done a fantastic job. Look, it's the safest county in America, Nassau County, and he is the Nassau County, New York executive, and a wonderful guy. So let's see where this goes. We're rooting for Bruce. Norm, thank you very, very much. 1-800-848-9222. And we'll continue with your calls, everybody, after the break.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Rita Cosby Show.
So many people are wondering how come the New York media didn't even ask Zohran Mamdani today. He had a press conference where he was talking about his new community safety program, where he talked about sending these social workers and therapists out to domestic violence calls, which any officer will tell you often turn the most violent the quickest because emotions are running high. And that's where often we have actually had police officers lose their lives because things turn quickly and often emotions are so off the chart, which is why you need somebody like an armed police officer going to these scenes, not some grandmother who's a social worker or even a young guy who's a social worker. I don't want them to get hurt. This is crazy.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Rita Cosby is on.
Well, it will be interesting to see what Mayor Mamdani has to say, if he ever gets asked that, about his wife, Rama Dawaji, celebrating Palestinian terrorists. Now, remember, in the past, he said he was making lots of excuses, always saying, oh, well, she didn't really know this person or didn't know this. And there was another instance not too long ago where she was liking a post by somebody who is an author and made it sound like he doesn't really know the author, not really sure how that happened. And it turns out that the family knows the author, the Mamdani family. So, I mean, according to reports, they're a lot chummier than they're leading us to believe. Here's one of the excuses he said not too long ago about some of her past comments.
There's kind of rhetoric before she took that job, and do you think that type of rhetoric is acceptable about anyone?
I think that rhetoric is patently unacceptable. I think it's reprehensible. And as is common for freelance illustrators, the First Lady was commissioned to illustrate an excerpt of a book by a third party. She has never engaged with or met with the author, nor had she seen the tweets that you're referring to. And we stand in our administration, and I can tell you our administration, which is separate from the First Lady, as she doesn't have a role within it, against bigotry of all forms. And we do so unflinchingly because every single New Yorker deserves a place that they can call home without having to be wary of being their full self when they do so.
Well, I guess being his full self is having Mahmoud Khalil. And Mahmoud Khalil is, of course, the guy who was leading the Columbia University protests, those vile, horrible protests. Remember, he had him over for dinner soon after the terrorist attack, the planned attack there right outside of Gracie Mansion in New York City. And then Mamdani was asked about that, saying, isn't it a little inappropriate that you're having this guy? And he said, oh, no. He's a wonderful person. It's just First Amendment. Why don't you ask the Jewish students that felt terrified on Columbia University campus? Well, here is Mayor Mamdani making excuses for that guy.
As the mayor of New York City, I believe it is my responsibility to fight for the safety and for the rights of each and every New Yorker. Mahmoud Khalil is a New Yorker who 1 year prior to the iftar that we shared with him was returning from another iftar when he was detained by ICE agents, flown to Louisiana and held in an ICE facility. And he was held there for months. And the only charge that was levied against him was the exercising of his First Amendment rights. And I have long maintained that he and any New Yorker should be able to exercise their First Amendment rights in this city without fear of the kind of punishment that was inflicted upon him. And it's a punishment that many of us have quantified in the days that he was held in an ICE facility and the fact that his case continues to be ongoing. But also in that moment, it was a punishment that I understood more personally, given the fact that he missed the birth of his first child. And I think that it is critical that every New Yorker know that I will stand up for their right to exercise their First Amendment rights.
It's beyond First Amendment rights. I'm sorry. It's not First Amendment rights if you're harassing and threatening Jewish students so they felt terrorized to go to class. First Amendment rights? Who are you talking to? This is crazy. This is not First Amendment rights. You ask Professor Dershowitz, he'll say, heck no. And here's Zoran Mamdani rallying up an anti-Semitic crowd in the past.
Hello, everyone! Who is ready to end U.S. military aid to Israel? Who is ready to end $3.8 billion in annual military aid? My name is Zoran Mamdani. I am the assembly member for the 36th district here in New York State. That is Astoria and Long Island City. And I am proud to be here at this protest. I am proud to stand unapologetically for the freedom of Palestinians. It is at the core of my politics.
That's really concerning. Does that sound like someone who, is unbiased on the issue of Israel? Well, speaking on the issue of the world turned upside down on mayors, let's go back also to Brandon Johnson in Chicago. Remember when he said this just 24 hours ago, essentially saying that he was going to put the police officers to task if they dared to help federal authorities like ICE. This is cut number 48. And this is Brandon Johnson. This is the city that has a huge murder rate, huge crime rate, but yet he's focused on the police.
In today's meeting, City Council approved a measure that empowers COPA to investigate if Chicago police officers violate the Welcoming City Ordinance, which prohibits all city employees from assisting federal immigration enforcement agents. This is a common sense measure that will maintain the trust that we have built between law enforcement and the community, especially our immigrant communities.
And so earlier today, John Catsimatidis and I on Katz and Cosby, we talked to former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich and asked him what he thought of Brandon Johnson putting his priorities on going after police.
Well, yeah, the press conference should have been called the Insecurity Press Conference. And here we go again with Brandon Johnson and our governor, who's a Nepo baby billionaire, J.B. Pritzker, who's become Bolshevik. They want to handcuff the police when they take the handcuffs off the criminals and let them out of jail. And that's a simplified way of describing what's happening. but it's true. It's an unfortunate situation, and it's mind-boggling to me as a twice-elected Democratic governor, as a 3-time elected U.S. congressman, and 2-time elected Democratic state lawmaker, that the Democratic Party has decided to be for the criminals and against the police, because that's exactly what they are. And when they give sanctuary cities and sanctuary to illegal immigrants, bear in mind that 10 to 15% of the 15 million illegal immigrants that came to America are violent criminals. And that's who the Democrats have sided with against the police.
What a pathetic, sad situation for the great people of Chicago. And the governor, the former one there, Rod Blagojevich, is spot on. He's a Democrat. This is a Democrat. And yet he's seeing what's happening to his great city and great state. It is absolutely shocking. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Liz in Florida, line 3. Liz, your thoughts tonight.
Rita, you always sound so chipper and happy, even with all the craziness you report on every day.
Thank you. You know what? I'm a happy person, as you can tell, Liz. I am who I am with you guys, and I always try to have the glasses half full and hopefully make the bad news better, right? Make it a happy day if we can, right?
Oh, you definitely do. You bring such happiness. First of all, let's not call Mom Donnie's wife the first lady. She's no lady. So what I want to say is, I think that the world now sees us as a giant, a country that keeps their word. And if you want to hurt us, we'll fight you and we'll win. And now they want to be on the winning team. But I wonder, Rita, what their media is saying about us. Like, do they have real news, or are we the only ones with the fake news? Do we know?
Yeah, you know what? You bring up a good point. Now, why do you believe that? First, tell me sort of why you see what you're seeing.
No, I don't know. I don't hear what the media is saying in those countries. I'm just curious.
Yeah, it depends on where we're looking at. Now, I mean, I agree that President Trump is absolutely keeping his word. Obviously, in the country of Iran, they're not getting any news. But it looks like some of the Arab countries are coming around, because I told you what Saudi Arabia just said a few hours ago. That was a stunning statement for Saudi Arabia that said that the trust between them and Iran, quote, has collapsed, and that they may join the fight if necessary. So I'm sure their media is reporting what they're seeing, and they have to report sort of what's seeing too, because the facts are Iran is striking them. So their country's seeing, this massive fireball like they did in Saudi Arabia. When you hit, oil and gas facilities in a country, it's a massive explosion. So many people in that country are seeing it, and they're saying it came from Iran. They hit us. We did nothing there. These countries are not doing anything. Remember, they're not even part of the fight, and yet they're getting dragged into it because of Iran. So I think from what I hear, they're pretty straightforward on reporting the facts, and the facts don't look good for Iran. So I agree with you. Bravo, right?
Right. Iran made such a really big mistake by attacking our allies. It backfired on them, because now they realize that, like you said, there's no trust. And regarding what Israel did, they had every right to do anything that they want after all those years of Iran backing terrorists against them.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Absolutely. 100%. And you're right. I'd be curious to see what else is coming out. And also what else is being said in, some of these other countries, maybe even the ones that aren't being struck. I would like to see some of that coverage. I wish, by the way, they would have some coverage in Iran. Because, of course, they're shutting off the media. They're doing everything they can there because the people there certainly deserve it. But they're clearly getting information from elsewhere because they're taking cues from President Trump to stay in and wait until the time is right before they can really, really rise up. So they are clearly getting messages, even if they're not getting it from the media. But it is fascinating, Liz, to see, like you just said, the backfiring of Iran. I think Iran thought by hitting all these other countries that they were going to get them to say, oh, Israel, stop, U.S., stop. And it's done exactly the opposite. Did you ever think not only is Trump having such enormous success with Iran, but he's creating almost a new coalition in the world, Liz?
I totally, I'm in awe of that. And that's because we have the greatest president ever.
Yeah, it is incredible. I have such admiration for his courage, for his guts. So many other presidents wish they did this, but they didn't have the guts, Liz. And President delivers on what he says. And I agree. It's really great to hear from you, Liz. Thank you very, very much. Let's go to Sandra, New Jersey, line 4. Sandra, your thoughts tonight. It's great talking to you.
Oh, hi, Rita. So tonight was a beautiful night. I hosted Bruce Blakeman at the Women's Republican Club, like Norman told you.
Yeah, I heard, by the way, I just heard that. I was thinking of you. How great is that? How was he, by the way? And boy, is there a lot at stake in New York.
Oh, my God. I have to tell you, it's one thing seeing him on TV, hearing him on the radio. It's another thing seeing him in person. Wow, wow, wow. He is fit to be our governor. He has done so much for Nassau County. He's going to do more for New York. And, you know, you were talking about Mayor Mandani before, and one of the people in the audience asked him a question, can you get rid of him? And you know what he said? He said no, he wouldn't even want to do that, you know, because it's almost like unlawful. But what he would do, if he did wrong things, he would make his life very, very unpleasant. He would defund a lot of the things he wants to do, and that man would become a very unhappy mayor. So he was very diplomatic in how he answered that. And he also said that Hochul and Mandami, it's almost like they have something working together that's going to really benefit each of them, and we're all going to get screwed in the end. And if those two remain in office, kiss New York goodbye. This man is our only hope. And let me tell you, if we get him as governor, what he did in Nassau County, he will do in New York. You know, you want to hear some of the things he's done already or not?
Well, no, well, by the way, and he has done a lot already, Sandra. He definitely has. I mean, New York, as you brought up, Nassau County is the safest county in America. And so he already has so much to speak for. His record is amazing there in the county. I 100% agree. I love Bruce. And I think you're right about Kathy Hochul and Mandani. They clearly kind of scratch each other's back, if you will. And we're already seeing the result of that. I mean, she endorsed him right away. And as soon as I saw that, remember when she endorsed him, I thought, okay, New York's in trouble. She's not going to be the buffer zone. She's not going to buck him. She might try to use different phrases or different words. But at the end of the day, it looks like they both are clearly supporting each other. And it's an election year for her because she is going up, obviously, against Bruce. So because of that, she doesn't want to lose his support either. So, I mean, I'm talking about Mandani's. But it's interesting what you said that Bruce said, too, not about removing Mandani, but that he'd make his life so miserable. And maybe he could send a message that socialism doesn't work. I mean, if he were to get elected and he can put Mandani sort of in a box in terms of not being able to fulfill his crazy programs and showing people how unrealistic it is, that alone may do a great service. So to make sure we don't ever have another socialist mayor again. So we'll have to see. Obviously, there's a long road between now and November. And Bruce is a really impressive guy. I really like him a lot. And we'll see where this election goes. Sandra, thank you. It was really great hearing from you. Thanks so much. And everybody, we're going to continue with your calls after the break. But first, support our heroes.
The Rita Cosby Show presents Support Our Heroes.
And this is the Tunnel to Towers Foundation Support Our Heroes segment with a very powerful story from Ocala, Florida, where Norman Schutt gets a hug from his great-granddaughter during his 100th birthday celebration that just passed. Family and friends gathered to celebrate this great World War II hero. And Norman Schutt, just to give you a little background, served in my beloved Merchant Marines. I say that because I love the Merchant Mariners and have done a lot with them through the years, especially those great World War II ones. Norman was a big part of the Merchant Marines in areas including the site of June 6, 1944, the D-Day invasion. To give you a little background on him, he's a native of Saginaw, Michigan, And he joined the Merchant Marines in January of 1944. He served until August of 1945, and he was on 3 vessels where he played a major role in supplying critical materials and troops during the war. To give you a little background, too, the history of the Merchant Marine on the National World War II Museum website states that there were 243,000 mariners who served in the war, and more than 9,500 lost their lives while serving. That is a higher proportion of those killed than any other branch of the U.S. military. They are true heroes who played such a pivotal role in the war. And I was very proud to be a part of helping to get them the Congressional Gold Medal, which they did get just a few years ago. These heroes deserve it, including the great Norm Shutt, who just turned 100 years old. And everybody, all it takes is just $11 a month to make an incredible difference. Donate $11 a month to the great Tunnel to Towers Foundation. They help America's heroes and their families. They are the best. Be sure to check them out. You can make an enormous difference by helping this fine organization. Be sure to check them out at T2T.org. That's T, the number 2, T.org.
The Rita Cosby Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. It's the Rita Cosby Show.
And let's see what happens tomorrow in the war against Iran. So many enormous developments happening. And President Trump also having more meetings at the White House, and also then heading to Mar-a-Lago, as he always does, too, at this time of year, and has meetings there, too. President Trump is truly the Energizer Bunny. There is no doubt about that. Let's go to Robert in Brooklyn, line 3. Go ahead, Robert. Your thoughts tonight.
Hi, Rita. Thanks for taking my call. Well, you know, he talks about Mandani's freedom of speech, but he didn't seem to be talking about freedom of speech about Jake Lang, regardless of what you think of Jake Lang. And, you know, the other thing is, you know, I heard in Canada where they have this euthanasia type stuff, that they already had over 100,000 people were killed, you know, and it seems like there was one elderly woman that changed her mind and they killed her anyway. And so what this has to do with New York, because New York recently passed a law like this, allowing people to select to death in certain circumstances. And when you figure in the estate tax, if they think they're going to be able to take people's money away, besides saving medical costs, that gives such an incentive to the government to push people to die who really don't necessarily want to die.
That's, you know what, that's an interesting point, Robert. The other thing, too, as we're talking about crazy things happening in New York State and in New York, and this is something you guys will talk about more tomorrow, is the fact that it came out that New York City is spending $81,000 for each homeless person in New York. $81,000. That is more than the amount that the median household in New York City earns. Can you believe it? What is going on here, guys? We'll talk tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to The Rita Cosby Show. You can hear The Rita Cosby Show weeknights at 10 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?